Hello all and welcome to another video. Let's have a look at where we stand now from a performance and image quality point of view when it comes to ray tracing. The first GPUs capable of doing hardware ray tracing were the ones from Nvidia, the 2000 series. AMD back then didn't have any GPUs capable of real-time ray tracing, nor did Intel had any discrete GPUs. The Nvidia 2000 series was released in September 2018, half a decade ago from the time of making this video. Nowadays, as we have better hardware than back then, we can enjoy better visuals with less performance degradation. Right? On the screen, using Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition, we can see the light being cast as in real life and it looks amazing. In this upcoming scene, because there is a candle lit and some objects around it, we can see real-time shadows being cast on the wall and on the floor, and it looks so lifelike. Let's take some games and see where we stand with current hardware. The first one is Battlefield 5. I will not be doing any benchmarking, I will show some game footage with RT on and off to show you the visual improvements, and using those scenes I will compare the performance. I will show the FPS and percentage lost for RT on, with RT off being 100%. I will use the RTX 4080 and the RX 7900 XTX for comparison. The exact models are in the description. This cutscene here will be used for the comparison. In this scene, the RT improvement is minimal, but let's see the performance, as this may affect differently the card. Just because there was a powder with reflective surroundings, the AMD card delivered 57.5 less frames per second when compared to RT off. Bear in mind that there is a 200 FPS limit. The RTX 4080 does much better, with 23% performance loss. Moving on to control, this game was and probably still is one of the best examples for ray tracing in games. And that is because of the environment, as the game plays mostly in a building with a lot of reflecting surfaces that help underline the light and the shadows more. Just have a look. This kind of environment is where ray tracing really shines, where it has the biggest impact from a visual point of view. When looking at the performance drop when enabling ray tracing, the 7900 XTX loses 48.8% while the 4080 only 38.3%, but both cards perform well in this game. I would enable upscaling if the performance is low with your card. The next game that I checked is Witcher 3, a game first released on the RTX 11, but it was updated in 2022 to add ray tracing support. As it can be seen, the reflection and the shadows are the biggest visual improvements, with a performance loss of 49.7 for the AMD card and 42.5 for the Nvidia card. Let's have a look at some games from 2023. The first one being Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I won't lie, in most areas of the game, it's really hard to see if ray tracing adds any visual improvements. For example, in this scene, I can see the benefits of ray tracing. Let me show you what are the visual improvements when enabling ray tracing. When looking again at the scene, it seems to be a bit brighter, at least in darker areas like the shadows. Ray tracing off seems a bit more realistic. The visual improvements from ray tracing this game is small, maybe only in some areas where we have reflection, these improvements will pop up. And because of this, the performance drop off from ray tracing is small. The AMD card loses only 15.4%, while the Nvidia card 12.7%, though the 7900 XTX delivers more frames. Dead Space Remake is another game that has some minor ray tracing, and that is ray traced ambient occlusion. I tried to find a scene where I can see something, but I was not able to do so, and that is reflected in the performance drop-off as well. The 7900 XTX loses only 15.5% and the 4080 11.9%. Both cards deliver a great experience with everything maxed out, but the AMD card enjoys a big lead here. Just like Star Wars, Hogwarts Legacy's launch was plagued with optimization issues. Ray tracing is more evident inside Hogwarts Castle, where we have shiny floors and the lights are accurately cast on them alongside the surroundings. The light bouncing on the inside walls also seems to have an impact on visual, adding to the dose of realism. When looking at lights outside during the night, I failed to see the benefits of ray tracing. This applies to most parts of the game though. This was the scene that I used for the comparison, and as we can see, the performance drop off for both cards is huge, with the 7900 XTX losing 65% and the 4080 only 49.9. Moving on to Ratchet and Clank, a game that doesn't use Unreal Engine 4 like the previous three, we can see that the paddles look great and accurately reflect the surroundings, but the lights, at least from a distance, don't impress me with ray tracing. Shadows, as it can be seen, benefit more, at least to me, as they look more real. This game benefits more from ray tracing, at least compared to the previous three, and that's because there are a lot of light sources, thus generating shadows. Also, the textures are of high quality and ray tracing adds a dose of realism to them. Looking at the results, we see the Nvidia card doing a lot better, delivering higher FPS, and the performance drop-off stands at 31.1 compared to 48.8 for the AMD card. Now, Fortnite uses Unreal Engine 5 and has all the goodies available like Nanite and Lumen, thus we have ray tracing in a BR game. I'm using this game as a test for what Unreal Engine 5 can do, as I can record the play and use it to change display settings and check the performance drop-off for both cards. In this scene, the visual improvements from ray tracing are evident, and this is the one I used for the comparison. Now, when we look at the performance drop-off, we can see that this engine doesn't favor one architecture over the other. The performance drop-off for the AMD card, the 7900 XTX, stands at 20.2%, while for the 4080 stands at 17.2%. The last game that I will check is Cyberpunk 2077, the 1.63 version. This game is probably the best example for demoing ray tracing, but not all scenes benefit from it. As it can be seen, lighting from afar doesn't look much better with ray tracing, but from up close, it looks more real. The game has a lot more areas than any other game so far tested that can highlight the use of ray tracing, from reflected surfaces to neon-like lights and lit commercials, all add to the visual delight, especially during the night. Add rain and it looks amazing. To be honest though, the game looks good even without ray tracing, as it can be seen here. I tried to add a few examples for daytime to see benefits of ray tracing. All ray tracing scenes are using ray tracing Psycho. I didn't add any info when it comes to which scene is using ray tracing and which not, but you can tell by the frame rate in the top left corner. If you didn't see any difference so far, then probably you could play this game without ray tracing and enjoy a big FPS boost. As this is an Nvidia sponsored game, like Ratchet and Clank, the Nvidia card performs much better, just as in AMD sponsored games like Starfield or Star Wars, the 7900 XTX performs better. Looking at the performance drop-off, we can see that the 7900 XTX struggles with ray tracing, losing 62% compared to RT off, while the 4080 loses only 33.8%. So what we could see so far is that we can have minor visual improvements in some games, and in others we have more areas that benefit from ray tracing, with most games having a significant performance drop. Let's have a look at all results at the same time to paint a better picture. In Battlefield 5, the 7900 XTX stands at 42.5% performance compared to RT off, while the 4080 stands at 77%. In Control, the AMD card stands at 51.1%, with the Nvidia card sitting at 61.7%. In Witcher 3 RT, the 7900 XTX sits at 50.3%, while the 4080 at 57.7%. Moving on to Star Wars Jedi Survivor, we see 84.6% and 87.3%. In Dead Space Remake, we have 84.5 and 88.1. In Hogwarts Legacy we see 35 and 54.1. For Ratchet and Clank we have 49.6 and 68.9. In Fortnite 79.8 and 82.2, and in Cyberpunk 2077 38 and 66.2 for the 7900 XTX and respectively for the 4080. The average for all 9 games for that 7900 XTX stands at 57.2 compared to RT off, thus we get 42.8% lower frames, while the 4080 stands at 71.5 compared to RT off, losing only 28.5% frames. So we can see that the Nvidia card loses less performance with RT on compared to the AMD card, but the AMD card can be close to the performance of the 4080 in less intensive RT games. As we previously saw, the important part is that RT adds to visuals of the game, as we can see here in Quake 2 RT, but when a game has low resolution texture or less impressive graphics, it will not help. Think of RT as a bonus for a great looking game. And there you have it. Ray tracing adds to the immersion of the game by improving the lighting, making the shadows look accurate, and adding reflections that depict the environment around it at a cost of performance. In some demanding games, upscaling will be recommended to have a constant FPS of over 60 for both cards to enjoy all visual improvements from a good ray tracing implementation. If you didn't think that the visual improvements from ray tracing are not worth the extra performance cost, a great looking game will still look amazing with it disabled. Let me know in the comments below how you guys prefer to play the games, with it enabled or disabled. If you like the video, click the like button and subscribe to the channel. Hope to see you in the next one. Take care.